These are the verbal instructions for the meeting. Please clearly state and spell your full name. If you are representing an organization, please clearly state the name of the organization you're representing. You will have only 3 minutes to speak. The timer will start after you have started your name and, if applicable, the name of the organization you're representing. A 30-second warning will be given. At the end of the 3 minutes, you will be given a signal to stop. Once the stop signal is given, you may complete your sentence, and then you must stop. TEA will not be responding to any comments today, nor will TEA staff ask for your question, ask or answer any questions. So we may begin the meeting. I need to make sure that it is recording. Yes, it is. Fantastic. I didn't know when it kicked me out briefly, it stopped that too. All right. Let's see. We can begin with Mary Gonzalez.
Thank you. I am listening today.
All right. Mary, we're glad you're here. Thank you for listening. We can move on to Kelly Schultz.
I'm also just listening in today. Thank you.
Perfect. And Mike. And Mike has not responded any of the times that I've addressed him. All right, Ken. I think he has still left. I thought maybe he popped back in. Kia.
Thank you, Tabby. So my name is Kia Sala, Keyassaleh, and I work for the Regional Service Center, Region 10. And I just hopped on because we had some curiosities as it relates specifically to 89.10.50 paragraph J when it comes to the updates to subparagraph 4. So a student with a disability who has an IEP in a previous in or out of state who enrolls during the summer is not considered a transfer student for purposes of the Code of Federal Regulations. A couple of things that have come up that we've just had some questions around is what constitutes enrollment. That word enrolls has really tripped up some of our districts and LEAs as far as what actually constitutes enrollment and whether or not they enroll over the summer for any students. And so we have some districts who feel like they don't do any enrollment over the summer and are not sure how this provision would apply. The second question that seems to come up is really about how it supplants 323F about out-of-state transfer students, because this regulation really only talks about the IEP and implementation at the beginning of the school year, whereas 323F talks about evaluations as well. So historically, our LEAs are used to conducting new evaluations for students transferring from out of state. And so this new regulation doesn't discuss anything about the evaluation. So we're a little unclear about, are we expected to implement an IEP without an evaluation in place other than the out of state information, or are there expectations about what needs to be done for evaluations prior to the start of the school year as well? So those are kind of the things that we have heard that are just kind of more details that districts would like in order to be able to implement these regulations. Thank you for the time.
Thank you, Kia. Right. Robbie announced that just listening as an individual. Nicole May, would you like to speak?
I'm listening only today. Thank you.
Okay. Rebecca Fogel, a journalist, would you like to, do you have something to speak, or are you just listening?
Oh, I'm also just listening in. Thank you.
Rebecca Holmes.
I'm just listening as well. Thank you.
Christine Grogel.
Just listening as well.
Amy Trainer,
I'm listening today. Thank you.
thank you. Stephen Allemon,
Good morning. Can you hear me?
I can. Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Stephen Alamon. The first name is Steven. The last name is Aleman. I'm a senior policy specialist with Disability Rights Texas. I'm headquartered in Austin, Texas. Disability Rights Texas is the protection and advocacy agency for people with disabilities in our great state, including our students in public schools. I'm making remarks today in brief on the proposed regulation changes. I'll be providing written comments with some more details. Specifically my comments this morning in my limited time are addressed to paragraph 9 on the changes for students with specific learning disabilities. I want to make a couple of comments. First, in the positive, I want to commend Texas Education Agency for specifically including the various conditions and impairments that constitute a specific learning disability, including dyslexia. On that point, I would suggest, however, although it's not in the federal regulations, the phrase "and related disorders" be added to that reference to dyslexia and subparagraph A. I also want to commend TEA for what I believe is, in my interpretation, moving what's sometimes referred to as the discrepancy model for eligibility for special education. This can sometimes severely affect students of color, and many advocates have been concerned about that particular eligibility approach in the past. So we believe that is, if I'm interpreting the changes correctly, a positive for many students of color in our state. Finally, in terms of the positive, I do want to also acknowledge that the addition of a provision that requires data-based documentation be provided to the students' parents. That is very important for parents to understand what's happening to their child. Again, I would ask, however, that there be a clarification added to this new clause with regard to the timeliness of that data being provided and on a regular basis. Finally, I'll just conclude my remarks, and I know I'm running short on time, with just a few other observations. One is with regard to the use of response to intervention and multi-tier systems of support as ways to provide interventions to students who may be struggling. We want to be clear that none of those intervention efforts should ever be interpreted as being required before a determination can be made that a student has a learning disability. We don't want students caught in RTI or MTSS needlessly when it's clear that they do have a learning disability, and that clarification should be added to the rules. Finally, with regard to observations of students, a provision that has been carried over in part from federal language through the U.S. Department of Education IDEA rules. It is important to note that I can't see your sign, Tebby, but I probably—
Sorry, it says 30 seconds.
Okay, thank you. Just in conclusion, with regard to student observations, there may be some various other scenarios that may need to be addressed in this rule. The comments that were just made about summer enrollment, there may be a need to observe students in other environments or take into account that they may have been previously homeschooled, been in a private school. So we just, and we'll provide more details on this, but just the observation provision, of course, is important, but we believe there needs to be some further clarification of particular scenarios in that new paragraph, subparagraph D. Thank you for your attention and time. And again, I'll follow up these remarks with other written comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephen. Elizabeth Wilson.
I'm just listening today as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Brooke Thompson. She may have popped off. Okay. Jennifer Groves.
I'm just listening today. Thank you.
Thank you. Did everybody have an opportunity to speak? Did I get to everyone? Want to make sure I didn't miss anyone. All right, I believe that concludes our meeting for today. Thank you. I see a member, Annalisa Vale Perez. I don't know if you had a chance to speak. I didn't call on you. I just now saw your name. All right, that concludes the sign-in period. So anyone wanting to speak did need to sign in by 9 a.m. And we would have made room for them on the agenda. We already, everyone who wanted to speak, I think pretty much already did and left. But others had the opportunity to sign in at 9 o'clock. So it looks like somebody's logging in now. So I'll wait for them. Stephanie, you just logged in. Are you wishing to speak?
She's joining a Zoom. No, thank you.
Okay, because the sign-in period ends at 9 a.m. and so everybody has pretty much spoken. And we will be reviewing our notes and the recording of the meeting. And I'd like to thank everybody for being here and that stayed to listen to anybody else who wanted to speak. And I think that's it. Everybody can leave because we're not going to be taking any more speakers, and Stephanie didn't have a desire to speak.